Thank you, Juliet. Well, as the deadline to begin troop withdrawal in Afghanistan inches closer, it seems the Obama administration is leaning toward a humanitarian role rather than a military role. But Senator Harry Reid doesn't seem too confident with our role there to begin with. Take a listen.
Are you confident that it's going to work in the end, Afghanistan? Because it looks like a mess over there.
I don't think, I'm not confident that's going to work. I'm happy to see that I've talked to General Petraeus in the room next door here a couple of weeks ago, and he thinks things are going well. I have great respect for him. I hope it's going well. But this is, the American people have and rightfully so, a very short attention span. We cannot continue to keep dumping this money.
Joining us is Michael Barrett, former Director of Strategy for the White House Homeland Security Council and former Intelligence Officer for the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Michael joins us this morning. Michael, nice to see you.
Good morning.
So throw more money at this problem? Is that the answer?
Well, I think that's clearly not the answer. One of the things that we see here is that our strategy needs to evolve. It was clearly the right thing to do 10 years ago to go in, but that doesn't mean that it's the right thing today to stay. Our objectives have changed over the last 10 years. You know, right after 9/11, we felt like we had to be there. We had to take away this base of operations for al-Qaeda. But now that mission has morphed dramatically. And so now, you know, I've got friends in the military and in the CIA, and they keep telling me, look, we could be there 100 years. We're not going to be able to build the kind of democracy and institution and civil society that we think we can. And so we're looking at spending a lot more money with a lot less effectiveness.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like an absolute hornet's nest over there. But then you have people who argue if we leave, it opens up a vacuum. We saw parts of Afghanistan in a report I read last week on part of the northern border region where the U.S. military has withdrawn. And now you're starting to see al-Qaeda pour back over to the border again, these camps being set back up. So as soon as we start to leave, we're starting to see al-Qaeda and the Taliban teaming up and coming back into power. We're sending drone strikes to try to hit them. But are we going to do this for the next 20, 30 years?
Well, I think that's the question that we have to get back to is what's the long-term strategy here? Because when we do keep a physical presence, it's at a very high cost in terms of people and resources and money. And the American public, frankly, is not even really paying attention to this. I think if you did a poll, you'd find very few people who know we have 100,000 troops over there bravely defending our national interest. And so if the people aren't engaged, that's a big danger in a democracy. And then you also have a lot of other areas, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Pakistan, other issues where al-Qaeda can operate from. So the concept that we have to be there physically, you know, and we're even seeing that. We're pulling back. We're going into the major cities because we've focused on institution building as opposed to finding and killing al-Qaeda.
Right, and the other issue here, of course, is the Taliban and also the corrupt government, the Karzai government, who barely has control of his own capital to begin with. So we're trying to set up a democracy, trying to make partnerships within the Karzai government, and yet this government is corrupt, and there's no sort of national support for any sort of democracy going forward. So how do we work with a corrupt government like that?
Well, that's exactly the point. So we've got this tribal system over there, and we're trying to, you know, in our concept, modernize it. But you're trying to take a huge leap forward in a very short period of time. And frankly, you know, there's a lot of discussion about this. I don't think that's actually possible. I think we have to let Afghanistan society evolve at its own pace.
So do we have to leave, Michael? I mean, is that the answer here? We've got to just get out?
I think we need to get some of the combat troops out because the day-to-day presence is really causing a lot of problems. Now, clearly, we got to keep special forces there. You've got Iran on one side and Pakistan on the other. So there is a very important role to be played, but we want to be able to do it with a smaller footprint and a much more aggressive but targeted activities. The huge presence, the troop presence there is very large. And also, you got to remember, our allies are pulling out, you know.
Right.
We, the U.S., are talking about staying in for a little bit longer, but the allies are all pulling out as soon as they can.
Yeah, and approval ratings for this war here at home not favorable as well. Michael Barrett, great to see you this morning. Thanks for bringing your expertise to Fox and Friends. We always appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Coming up here on the show, police looking for this team.